Hello, welcome to the final episode of Leicester for Series 13. Sorry, I called it Season 13 in the previous intro. I feel ashamed of myself. There may be a couple of specials coming up between here and September. I've done a recording at the Cunt Comedy Festival, which will be an audio only, and Wells Comedy Festival. The one was very good. The Wells one, I'm talking to Michael Eavis from the Glastonbury Festival. So there might be a couple more things popping up, but basically we're back in September. Go to leicestersquaretheatre.com to buy tickets for that show. That will be lovely. You can also become a dripster, d.rip/Richard-Herring, or a badger, gofasterstripe.com/badges. If you do either of those things, you get lots of backstage interviews and lots of other extras and emails about who the guests are before everybody else. I felt there was something else I wanted to tell you about. The New Emergency Questions book is coming out, of course. You know that much. Well, maybe there wasn't anything else. You know, so in some ways, some people would say I should prepare this beforehand. But look, thanks very much for everyone who's contributed and helped us make this series. And I think it's been a really good one. Thanks to everyone who came and saw me on tour. The DVD of O'Frig 50 will be out in November. If you've got a Kickstarter version, I think there'll be a very few copies for sale if you want to try and buy one. It will be available as a download also. Yeah. There was something else I need to tell you, but hey, it'll wait. Let's be cool. Let's be like two little funsies, my friends. All right, see you later. Thank you. Sit back and enjoy this Leicester with Mark Steele, Andrew Collins lookalike. Mark Steele. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. It's the last show of the series. Everyone's brought in games. Please welcome a man. Please welcome a man who is shooting blue sperm over George the Soundman as we speak. It's Richard Herring. Hello, welcome to Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. I was talking to some fans of As It Occurs to Me, the 2011 podcast the other day. They call it Leicester, so I don't know if that's going to catch on. It's the last one of the series. We're waiting to find out if we've been recommissioned, so fingers crossed. I was at King's Cross. I come down from King's Cross because I live in Hertfordshire now and came on the train. And when you get there, there's loads of people standing outside the Harry Potter shop. You've seen this in King's Cross because there's a wall and it says platform 9 3/4 on it, and people then queue up to have their photo taken by that for ages. Like there's a massive, it's like you think, oh God, what's going on? There's a massive crowd of people. I was just thinking, if there's ever a terrorist attack on King's Cross, that's going to be the last thing loads of people do. Imagine that, getting to heaven and go, what were you doing when you died? Oh, I was having my photo taken outside an imaginary platform that doesn't exist. That was worth it, wasn't it, mate? Well done. Don't like jokes about terrorism here in London, but everywhere else in the country, they're fucking laughing their asses off. That's the good thing about living in the country. Wait, you'll see Richard Herring. I was watching Beat Bugs. Anyone fan of Beat Bugs in? No, I'd never seen it either. It's on Netflix. My daughter wanted to watch it, and it's like anthropomorphized insects. Could never say that word, insects. And it sort of opens, and they all sing "All You Need Is Love" by the Beatles. You go, fucking hell, how did they afford to get the rights to this? Then the whole show is insects singing songs by the Beatles. I can't think, what would John Lennon think about this if he was alive, if he'd lived to see this travesty? But you're not in control, are you? It's like Charles Dickens with the Muppet Christmas Carol. What would he think of that if he came, once he'd got over the technological aspect of there being puppets, first of all, and then film puppets? I think Charles Dickens would hate the Muppets Christmas Carol, but I think he would if it's better than the Christmas Carol.
No, it's weird. It's kind of weird to think that you're not in control. It's just an interesting thing. It's not a comedy routine. It's interesting to think that your artistic legacy, like this podcast is similar to the Beatles, might be appropriated in 50, 60 years' time by someone else. Would you be happy? Would you think... I mean, the Beatles did a cartoon, didn't they? Do you remember that? David, remember the Beatles cartoon? No? Anyone remember the Beatles cartoon? Yeah, there was one, thank you. So, it was better than that shit, a load of shit, sell-out shit, but there we go. It's just interesting. Anyway, so let's crack on. I was interested in the artistic vision. You're not as interested in it as I am, because you're not artistic like I am. It's got, like, Sia in it and Regina Spektor. They must have spent a lot of money on this show. For, like, little kids. It's fucking shit. What I'm saying is, John, if I was John Lennon, I'd be glad that I was shot in the head. That's what I'm saying. And I didn't have to see that. There we go. I knew there was something in there somewhere. So it's all right to laugh about John Lennon being assassinated, but when it's you might be killed by ISIS, suddenly you shut up, don't you? Hypocrites. I hope ISIS kills all of you tonight. So this was when the series turned. It was going so well for Richard Herring until he basically supported the terrorist networks. I can understand why they would. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that Ben Walker would be worried about Dave if he was producing, but Dave's made a song and stuff. Okay, I'll go through. What I'm saying, Ice, is if you're listening at home, come and have a fucking go if you think you're hard enough to get hard. If you think you can kill our audience, you've got another thing. Come and try, is what I'm saying. Edit that bit out, Dave. Well, I'll probably be okay up here. So anyway... Our guest this week is probably best known as Ski Man from the Time Slides episode of Red Dwarf. Yeah, many of people remembering that. And also, he is the only semi-professional Andrew Collins lookalike working in the country today. Will you please welcome Mark Steele, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome, Mark. Thank you. Mark Steele.
Thank you. That's always good warm-up practice to get ISIS in. There's not enough ISIS jokes on mainstream television. They should start the news with it, shouldn't they? Well, lots of things have happened in the economy, but first of all, here's an ISIS joke.
Yeah. People say you joke about Jesus and Easter, but would you joke about ISIS? Yes, I would. But my producer will edit it out, so this isn't helpful.
Do you think they sort of, when they're looking for targets, there'll be somewhere in what's left of their caliphate? Look, this fucker, what do you say about us?
I'm very helpful.
That's how they choose them.
I've given quite a lot of good terrorist atrocity ideas in this podcast over the years. Yeah. So they actually quite like me.
They owe you a few, Bob, don't they? I was patented that one. Yeah.
So they have used a couple of them. So they haven't done I came up with a good one, which is Barocca. You can have explosives in a Barocca that you just put in water on a plane and then shake it up and bang. That would work, wouldn't it? That's a good one. And breast implants, explosives. They haven't done that one yet.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I've got loads of good ideas. If anyone from ISIS is listening wants to... Seriously, sorry about the stuff earlier. That was just a joke. But if you want to... Don't kill me, because I've got some good ideas.
That would at least be imaginative on their part, wouldn't it?
What?
That would at least be imaginative on their part.
Yeah,
if they use breast implants, people would be going, well, it's terrible, but on the other hand, you've got... Credit where it's due.
Yeah. You'd spot the blokes coming, though, wouldn't you? Do you get mistaken for the broadcaster Andrew Collins very much?
All the time, all the bloody time. Yeah, even my own family. Andrew, where's Dad, they say.
And do you remember... it's nice, it feels like we've done a lot of podcasts together already, Mark. I feel very relaxed. Do you remember being in that Red Dwarf?
Well, vaguely. This was about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember why I got asked to go on it, and I was on it for I don't know what I did even. I think I had to dress up in a skiing thing.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, and that was it. And then they sort of took a picture of me or something, and then that was
Anyone know?
Surely not. Even the
There
most
must be some Red Dwarf
freaky-
fans in who know every single thing.
It's an episode where...
No,
I have been waiting for my moment.
no.
It's an episode where
they can go inside photographs.
they can go inside photographs.
Oh no.
And Andrew, and sorry, and Mark.
They did think it was Andrew. And I got there and they went, oh, fuck, you got the wrong one. Well, I tell you who I get mistake for is Mark Thomas. I get mistake for all the time.
Right.
And to this extent, all right, this was the finest example of being mistaken for Mark Thomas. The Radio Times one week, honestly, it said, had my radio show advertised, and it said 6:30, Mark Steele's in town, weekly show in which comedian Mark Thomas tours the town. It honestly said that.
And there's something about Mark. I once had to introduce Mark. Now you've said all these Marks, I can't think of his name. And he's my friend, the Bristol comedian, Mark Watson.
Right.
And it was in Bristol, and everyone had come to see him. And as I was introducing him, I was about to say Mark Thomas, and then I had to think within, and my brain went. Tick, 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 and I was, as I was saying, please welcome to the stage, Mark. What? And it did come out as Watson, but my brain
it's
was
a
very
panic, isn't
confused.
it?
Yeah, so it must be
Maybe,
the
yeah.
Marks.
Yeah.
There's lots of Marks in comedy. Two
Yeah.
Marks. There were two Marks, weren't there?
This should be, you know, when my dad wrote porno thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing the Albert Hall.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've got a more of that. That's a clue of how to do a podcast more than if we turn this into a quiz game. And now, welcome to how many people in comedy have this name?
Yeah.
This week, Ding Ted.
There's a TV show that is that now, so it was a slow burn.
I've got an idea for a podcast.
Go on, what is it?
Before we get talking about other things. Right, see if this, what do you reckon on this? I've had loads of discussions with people, and you can throw in any people that you want on this, right? Whether someone is a cunt or a wanker. Now, I think the other night I was in the pub and I just mentioned this. Within quarter of an hour there were arguments going all round the pub. Honestly, Boris Johnson, he's a cunt. No, he's a wanker. He hasn't his clue. No, he knows what he's doing. He's a cunt. And you could throw in anyone, Eric Bristow, anyone you like. And what you're aiming for here, Richard, right, is the jackpot is to get someone who is both. And they are really rare.
Yeah.
I mean, Blair, I think, is the epitome of this. I think he's both.
Yeah.
But it's very, very rare.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's good, isn't it?
There's definitely mileage in that.
I think, I did suggest it as a Radio 4 panel show. Robert Robinson, if only he was still around. Ah, cunt or wanker. Would that it were, Mr. Nesbitt? No, indeed. Noel Edmonds is a cunt. Brilliant, wasn't it?
It's very good. So you have been working as a stand-up comedian since 1982.
Yeah.
This is ages.
Yeah, well, isn't
A
it?
long time.
Yeah.
And you don't like to talk about what you were doing before. No, you just get fed up with people asking you what brought you into stand-up.
Oh, God, yeah, well, I did.
So you make up
I
lots
did,
of-
yeah, no, that's, well spotted. No, I did do this a few years ago. Well, this started because I was asked, one of the first sort of, I don't know, one of the biggest things I've been asked to go on, I think. It was midweek at the time, back in about 1990 time. Midweek with Libby Purvis.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's a big thing. And then some researcher, you know the score with these things, so a researcher rings up and they ask you various things that might crop up on the programme. And this researcher said, well, have you done, how did you get started in comedy? And I said, oh, it's just not very interesting, because it really isn't very interesting. Most of us have we just fancied doing it, we saw someone, we thought I'd like to do it. I said, it's just not very interesting. Then you ring up some theatres and clubs and all that. And then she said, well, you know, we'd like to talk about it. I said, it's not. I said, I could make something up if you like, but, you know, there's no point in that. She said, well, go on, do that then. I said, well, all right then. I said, right, my dad, right, was Polish, and he was a manager at this plant, a car plant in Poland. And I used to have to go over there with him every Christmas, and he'd have to make a speech. And then it's the tradition in Poland that when the manager of a car plant makes a speech to all the people in the room, that their son has to get up and say something as well. And funny, I don't know if you know this about Polish, but one of the easiest ways to learn Polish is to learn the jokes. So I got up and I told a couple of Polish jokes, and they went down so well that I was booked to do a regular slot at the canteen during the lunch break in a nearby vodka factory, right? So, anyway, I just said this, right? Anyway, I thought nothing more of it, and about 3 days later, I was on the air. I hope this exists somewhere. And then it comes, Libby's talked to someone who's, you know, gone up and down the Thames on a bath or something, or discovered a new species of giraffe, or who was on the programme. And then she says, and now I turn to a comedian who indeed, Mark Steele, you had a rather extraordinary start to the world of comedy. I said, did I? No, well, Mark's being rather obtuse, a little bit modest, if I may say. I can tell the listeners, no, Mark started with his father as a Polish team. No. And she read all this out. Nearby vodka factory. So from then on, I thought, I'm going to keep doing this. And I wish I'd kept them, but I've done loads of these, and they get printed. I told one local paper, I said, well, I've always been really scared of flying. And I found that one of the only ways that I could keep calm was I'd just rattle out jokes. And there was once, there was a really severe bit of turbulence on a plane, and I just rattled out so many jokes. Everyone just started laughing. The captain heard about it. They said that was a really calm load of passengers given the amount of turbulence. And someone said, yeah, there was a bloke there telling loads of jokes. So I got booked to do a regular slot on the London to Dublin shuttle service. And then I kept doing this, right? And it's bollocks, the flaws. Think of the flaws in that. And then there was, I did one where I said, I used to play football for Bexley Academicals, right? I was terrible. I was so bad, we'd always be 2-0 down at half-time, and then I'd tell a load of jokes during the half-time interval, and it spurred the team on so much, we'd always win 3-2. Loads and loads of these, they just...
Then no one go, why didn't you tell the jokes before the first half?
I know. The holes in the plot, there are so many, aren't there? Like an episode of Crossroad. Why didn't you...
I just find with the local newspapers, they make enough mistakes on their own anyway. You'll say something and then it just goes, why didn't say anything like that?
There was one, what was it? I'm not going to remember this right. It was one of those... Yeah, she rang up. Oh, bless her, wasn't her fault. It was Maidstone I was doing. She was a Maidstone advertiser. And she just obviously just bored, so you know, clue I was. And she said, got a load of questions. She said, have you ever been to Kent before? One of those sorts of supermarket checkout voices. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, yeah, well, yeah, I was brought up in Kent. She said, oh, right, well, how did you get started in comedy? So I thought, oh, here we go. I said, well, I used to work on the Gravesend Tilbury ferry, and you know, you have to do all them poor people. You know, on your left you'll see Dartford, on your right going up to the Isle of Sheppey and all that. So I used to liven it up by telling jokes about the Essex people, right? And the Kent people loved it, but the Essex people hated it. And then there'd be fights and everything. But I got the sack. But I was booked up to do a regular slot in a comedy club in Sittingbourne because it could become so famous. And they printed this. Oh, that's right. And then she said, she says, it says here you've written the book. Can you tell me what the book's about? And I said, well, it's a children's book. I wrote a children's book. But I just thought there's a gap in the market here, really, because a lot of people say that with their kids' books, children's books, there's not enough swearing in them. You know, and I just thought kids would love it. You know, not enough kids reading books these days, and they'd love it more if it was, you know, Jack and the Beanstalk was like, 3 fucking beans, you twat, you fucking out. I see a fucking cow, and you've got that. What the fuck use is that, you fucking idiot? And she said, and she all got printed. Mark's controversial career continues.
You got a book deal. There's plenty of the books. So You were in there. You were in the kind of thick of it of the 80s alternative comedy. Then, so you were on with all these kind of crazy acts that I'm always fascinated about in the 80s.
Ah, now I'm glad you say that, Richard, because that is absolutely. There's a myth about at the 80s comedy scene that it was all sort of very uber political, but it wasn't that at all. It was variety, really. It was, in fact, one of the main gigs was called New Variety, and it was a sort of slightly modernised version of what was the old music hall in a way. Strangely, I mean, but. So yeah, it was absolutely crazy acts, absolutely bonkers. It was brilliant. I mean, you must have caught some of them.
We have sorts of the Iceman and
The Iceman.
There's
Which
people
is, for people who don't know,
he was a man who just had a big block of ice that he lay down on, and melted. That was his act.
Yeah. But there was a brilliant thing in there, wasn't there? Where there's for about a minute, the audience is like, "What's this?" And then they thought, "Oh, it's funny because he's doing this, and then he's going to do something." And then at about 6 minutes, it was, "Fuck's sake!"
It's just such a complicated, like the part of the funniness was just imagine him getting the ice to the venue and stuff. So that's
stuck in the taxi. Oh, fuck. Fucking dripping. Can you hurry up, mate? Or on as fast as I can. I hope you're mopping that up at the back. He didn't realise he's getting the act for free in his mirror.
Are there any that you remember that don't get spoken of very much?
Oh God, I'm not too good. There was one. I remember one day I was somewhere. I think it was called Essex University, and there was a bloke, a Geordie bloke. He was a nice bloke, but he was an escapologist, and he did this act. I was going on after him, and he said, "I'll come out. We introduce each other. I'll come out. I'll do this thing in a sack, right? I'll get out the sack, and then I'll introduce you." I said, "All right." So I've gone sort of back behind the curtains, and I'm waiting for him. This was one of the first gigs I'd done out of London, and he's got some student out. You'll eat a teamie and a suck. Now, the bloke's done all that, and then he's got a minute or 2 minutes or something. And I'm just sort of peeking through the curtains, and I can see this student sort of still stood there. And time, I thought, God, he's dragging this on for theatrical sort of reasons. And then eventually there's a murmuring. Then I hear this voice from in the middle of a sack. "Walk, are you there? Can you come and get me out, man? I'm fucking stuck. I'm not joking. I'm fucking stuck." And I just sort of walk on the next act, I can't hang on. You've done it a bit tight, mate. I'm fucking stuck on a fucking breathe, man.
It'd be good if that was his act every time, though. See what the next act does.
God, I don't know. There was some terrible ones. I used to do the comparing at a place called the Canal Cafe Theatre, which is a lovely place, Little Venice, and that was. It was a sort of mixture of people there, but a lot of the time it was a sort of open mic thing. But whereas I think now the open mic nights, most of the people doing it, they've got enough people to copy, haven't they? That they all trying to, I don't mean to be disparaging about them, some are probably very good, but they're trying to copy someone that they know or something. But they do at least know how to. But then the people were just all over the place, mad, and it was really going bad one night. And then there was this bloke on. He just said he just wanted to be called Cyril, and I got this piano, and he was just banging the piano with his fists and stuff, And I remember I had to go and drag him off, and I'm sort of going, "Oh, he's on children's television next week now. Fuck off! I'm playing the piano." Oh God.
But it was, but it felt like that. Even when I was doing it, it felt like there's every chance that it could just be someone who was properly mentally ill, rather than just comedian mentally ill. And there's a big blurred area in the middle of that anyway. But it was, there was some properly. I mean, it's like with that open spot thing. It's people are either very nervous and scared, which is a natural reaction, or just ridiculously confident. And often the best people are ridiculously confident, but also the very worst people are ridiculously.
Well, I think that's like that in most things, isn't it? You see that in sport or something. You'll get the person who'll go, yeah, I can play cricket or whatever, and then they bowled first ball. And
They rarely get to go out into a major game, though, do they? That's most thing. Oh, you can play, can you? Oh, you can go for
Open
England.
night test matches. Well, opening the banner for England is Neil from the pub. Oh, fucking easy, isn't it? You lose it a fucking ball, isn't it?
Smashing the wicket. Oh dear. And I was reading you're on quite a lot of the early loose ends or the earlier loose ends radio
Yeah,
shows.
well,
were
Ned
early on.
Sheeran was. Well, I actually did a thing about cricket, and he was a cricket fan, and so he was. He said, "Oh, can you? Yes, would it be lovely if you could come back and do something regular?" And I went on and went on there quite regularly. And that's about the first time, I suppose, that I thought, oh, that'd be the exciting thing where you do something and then it's not just the people in the room that have heard it, and someone comes up and goes, "Oh, I heard you on that programme." That's a thrill, isn't it? When that happens?
No, exactly, yeah. And they always had like a quite an eclectic mixture of
you'd meet
people on those
mad
shows.
people on there. I went to Joseph Heller.
Right.
Joseph Heller, I remember and he come round the pub and I sort of, Brit Eklund. And then sort of there was this little tradition, and Ned Sheeran would go into the little pub that's just next to the BBC and go, I shall buy the first round, and you just sort of you'd go up and get them to be pork pies, and you'd be sat there with Brit Eklund in the corner of the pub and stuff. I don't know, it's quite odd thing, that, isn't it? To be, when you first meet people like that, and then, God, Brit Eklund in the pub. Joan Bakewell.
Yeah. Gary Glitter, I read. Do you
Yes, he was on one once. Yeah. Exciting, isn't it?
It is.
I've met one of Britain's leading paedophiles.
He lived in. I grew up in Cheddar, and someone said he lived in Wedmore with his 15-year-old girlfriend. It was fine at the time; no one minded. So different. It was a different time.
Yeah.
Long as the mum and dad said it was okay, it was all right. That's how it was.
Yeah,
in
that was
those
right,
days.
wasn't it?
Better times. You had to ask the mum and dad, do you mind if I live with your 15-year-old daughter?
Yeah.
If they said yes, that was okay.
Yeah, as long as you come out and sing hello, hello, and back again every now and again for the neighbours. Raise money for the allotment. Can't do it these days. Fucking political correctness gone mad, isn't it? Can't do nothing. See, once we're out of the EU, they'll scrap all them fucking regulations. Got a couple of number one records, you'll be able to go back there with your 15-year-old daughter again.
And
Fucking terrible, isn't it? Can't do nothing. Perfectly honourable man ruined by the EU with their fucking paedophilic red tape.
if he'd gone and lived in the EU, it'd have been fine. That's the irony. So.
I love it, man. Angry people. They're so angry. Why aren't we? We should have left. We voted to leave. Why haven't we left? We are leaving. Yeah, what? We should be leaving. Well, we are leaving. Well, right, well, we should come back in then and then leave again. And do it twice a week. That fucking teach them to be Belgian. I was listening to James O'Brien.
Yes.
It's really funny to listen to James O'Brien. He's this phoning on LBC because he just does this. He does it all with this sort of tired, fed up sort of, and he's very erudite. And he just like, his old program. He's just going, oh Jesus, like that. And there was one, there's a brilliant one. I've watched it about 5 times, as you can see it on the YouTube thing. And the bloke goes, we could probably trade now with everyone we're going to trade with, who we want to trade with now. We're not in the EU, we're better off. He said, right, well, who are we going to trade with now that's going to make up for the EU, Dave? Well, all them places we used to run. We can trade with them again, can't we? I said, what do you mean? He said, and he said, well, I mean, we used to run 3/3 of the world, didn't we? And this bored way that he goes, Dave, that's all the world. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. One of them thirds, it's all them thing. And then he goes, right, he says, now, if they don't want to sell us, the cars, wine, whatever it is, right? If they don't want to sell us that, right, we get back at them, right? We say, when you want to come to this country, right, you queue up all day, we're not going to let you in, nothing, right? 8 hours, customs, all that, right? There you are, that'll fucking, I wouldn't swear, but, that'll sort it, James Ryan went, OK. He said, but then they're going to do the same to you if you want to go to France. And he went, yeah, but I don't want to go to France. Brilliant. But this bloke thinks Britain's entire economic and political strategy for the next 50 years should be based on where he wants to go on holiday. We're trading with France, right? I don't want to go there. What's the point of that?
I want to have a blue passport, but I don't want to use it. It must be. I mean, it must be great for you, all of this, in terms of your fantastic columns you write for the Independent now. That you've got all of these. I mean, is it harder to write about these things because they're so ridiculous, or is it? I mean,
you want for doing that column I do, you just need someone to have said something mad, really, and then you're away, so something like that. That bloke's brilliant, because then you can follow that logic through. I suppose is the thing. Yeah, it's not. It's not a place for writing any sort of nuanced art. And people take it serious. It's a brilliant thing with the. I mean, I suppose people always did, but they didn't have a voice. But now, so no matter how mad a thing you put, people all on the comments and Twitter and that. Then you get all the stuff. That's ridiculous what you're saying. It's meant not. Don't take it literally. You can't. So there was one I put. I loved one I put about Putin, and I referred to him. I think I've got the words right. It's about 3 weeks ago. I referred to Putin as a homophobic, gangster, racist, criminal, oligarch, thug, moron, idiot, or something. and someone wrote a reply going, "Any criticism of Putin from you, Mark? No, I thought not." But that's not enough. Didn't call him a cunt, mate, did you? That's the trouble.
Well, it does feel like from Twitter, it feels very much. I'll joke about most things. And there's certain subjects that you'll get people going, why you exactly that? Why are you joking about Corbyn? Why are you joking about Trump? Why are you joking about Brexit? You wouldn't joke about the opposite. You wouldn't, And yet you are doing all those jokes, and then everyone's homing in on the one that affects them, which used to be like a comedy club. There'd be one person go laughing, and then you'd make a joke that was too close to their home for them. And they get upset, and you go, "You're an idiot. Look, you've been laughing at all the other things."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But now people just sort of almost blinkered to not even see it when you.
There's probably no more than it was. They're just people who and they take everything literally. It's probably not many people. I was doing a joke actually about how there's nothing you could write. There's no collection of words you could write on Twitter that wouldn't offend someone somewhere. I was saying you could put, "I'm enjoying a delightful sunset across Dorset this evening," and someone would put, "Not so delightful if you suffer from sunset aversion Dorset syndrome, actually." Have a thought for sad sufferers in future, please. And this is true. I wrote something about. I mentioned. I did a bit about Trump, and I don't know. I can't remember what I put, but I mentioned in passing he was a psychopath, right? And like 4 people of all the replies, got 4 people sent me messages saying, "Please don't add to the stigma against psychopaths." They're suffering as well, They've got nowhere to put their salad because their fridge is full of heads.
So you were in the Socialist Workers' Party as a young man.
I was. Yeah. I joined it when I was about 18. Yeah.
So what attracted you to that?
Oh God, how do I say this without being incredibly tedious? Well, I was sort of when I was a teenager, I thought, I like the idea of socialism and stuff. Doesn't seem fair, the people at the top of society, they're not the best people. They're the people they're certainly not the people you'd want in charge. I don't know, don't like that. Things made me very cross. And this was the late 70s as well, so it was a very fervent sort of atmosphere. It was a very, much more than now, polarised situation. I think what had happened is that the post-war sort of boom, if you like, where everything must have felt like it was getting a little bit better every year in the 50s and 60s for working class people. And that sort of kept a little consensus going, kept things sort of calm. But then in the 70s, when the first post-war crash happened, loads of the older generation became furious. They they seemed to blame us. Look at you with your long hair and all that sort of thing. So it made so it's very polarised. And then obviously a lot of people blamed the sudden breakdown in society as they saw it on all sorts of, on black people and stuff like that. So there was the rise of National Front. So that was the time. But socialists seemed to... It was Russia. Russia was a communist country, and I thought, well, that's rubbish. That can't be an ideal. So the Socialist Workers' Party, they were against the Soviet Union. So that sort of attracted me to that, really.
Yeah.
If only I'd spotted that they were mental. But that side of it was... I'd stand by that. I don't think the Soviet Union was in any way fucking terrible, horrible dictatorship. Brutal.
Yeah, but it's similar. I mean, like you're saying, it's interesting that politics is becoming that divided again, and people are very passionate. The people on the left who are more on the left are very passionate again about those socialist ideas, and very intransient to anyone criticising it. So it's you can understand the passion of it, and as a young person getting caught up in the passion and the right, it's right.
I think most people attracted by Corbyn are do think things through properly, but of course there's a number of people who will just go, anyone makes any criticism of anything, rather than go, okay, right, well, all right, maybe there's something in what they say, or at the very least, maybe we're not getting our ideas across properly, so maybe we should rethink how we... Instead of that, they just go, oh, so you're fascist, you're fucking blah, 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 and off they go. And then, of course, but they're the people who go on Facebook and all that, the angry, don't add to the stigma against psychopaths people, aren't they?
Yeah, and you stood for the London Assembly, and you got quite a lot of votes.
No, I didn't. It was...
You did better than Al Murray.
It was a stupid thing to do, Richard. That's quite stupid. You can't if you're a comic. I got asked to do it, and it probably an ego thing. I thought, that'd be fun. But it was a bonkers thing to do, to stand for a comic, because you can't take anything seriously. It's hard to, I'd get up at a thing and do a few jokes and that, and think, that went well. Not a single bird. You've just got people, well, that funny bloke, I'm not voting for him. So that's not... My favourite moment of it was, got me no votes, which was outside this college, and we were giving out some leaflets, and there were these two young lads, like 17, and they took a leaflet, and one of them went, blood, this is good shit, bruv, you get me in it, you know what I mean, bruv, this is just what I want from you, I'm gonna vote for you, bruv. And his mate says, you can't vote, man, you got to be 18, you're only 17, innit? And he says, I can get around that, I've got connections, bruv. I loved him for that.
So you think, because I sort of sometimes think maybe, comedians might be a better... the comedians are quite intelligent and thoughtful people, and if you actually, and occasionally this has happened where a comedian's got a political movement going, and it's sort of done in Italy and places. And
we're recording this on a day when Eddie's gone on to the National Executive of the Labour Party, which I think, good luck to him. I really like Eddie, and I think he'll do really well. But you can't do that and be a comic. That's because, especially not now, because people will just miss it. If you do a joke, then it's just going to be all over the even people who know exactly what they're doing, they're just going to misinterpret it, aren't they, and put your joke. John O'Farrell, who wrote a book about being in the Labour Party, and he, in this book, Things Can Only Get Better, it was a really good book about being in the Labour Party through the Thatcher years, and he mentioned about how for a moment at the time when the Brighton bomb happened, there was a moment where he thought, good, he said, and then he thought, I hated myself for thinking that and all that sort of thing, but he's just a very honest thing about his, when he was 22 when it happened and all that. And then when he stood for election, that was the front page in the newspapers, because they went, look, Labour candidate is mad terrorist, bombing person. God, if they were to trawl through all the things, imagine now if I was to stand for election now, Labour candidate wants debate on cunt or wanker shot. We contacted the people in charge of the Robert Robinson estate. We are shocked and angered at Mr. Steele's sad, sick comments.
Yeah.
We still feel his death every day.
The trick is to do so much stuff that it's impossible for any journalist to have the time to listen through it all. That's my hope for becoming Prime Minister. What do you mean I said I wanted the audience to be killed? What? I never said that. He's calling for his own side to be murdered. Is this the man we want in charge? Yes, he can do no wrong. Well, look, I'm very interested in... I didn't see this, the show you did about finding your birth parents, or finding out about your birth parents, because you were, as many comedians are, you were adopted. A disproportionate amount of comedians seem to be
I'm not
adopted.
sure. Well, Stuart
And Rob Newman and Rona Cameron.
Yeah, quite a lot are adopted, but... the short version of this story. So I was adopted. I had no interest in trying to pursue my natural mother, certainly not my father. So I was brought up in Swanley, which is a little sort of working class town in Kent, and then all I knew is that my aunt, woman I came to know as my aunt, she had been living in a flat in West London. And this woman moved in next door, in the next door sort of flat in the same house. And she was 19 and she was obviously in her right state. And my aunt said to her, what's the matter, love? And she said, I'm pregnant, I've run away from home, I don't know what to do. And so my aunt said, well, my brother and his wife live in a place called Swanley in Kent. They want to have kids and can't have kids. Why don't you have the baby and give it to them? And that's pretty much what happened. It was before the EU meddled around and made us fill in loads of forms when you want to give a baby away.
You can just go up to a pregnant woman and say, yeah, we'll take that baby.
Yeah, we'll have it. No matter. Honestly, I reckon you'd have to fill in more forms now to get a guinea pig. So that was my adoption, and my aunt used to tell me that story. And all she ever told me about my father was she said, Francis, that was my natural mum's name, she said Francis used to say that the father was French. As I say, the show, so as I got older, I'd tell that to people, and they'd say things like, that explains why you like cheese. So there was none of that, and I always knew I was adopted. There was never one of them things, Mark, you're 6, time you learnt something, one of those things, for something to tell you, you're very special. Yes, you are, because you were chosen specially. You're not like the other boys and girls whose mummies and daddies have to keep them even if they hate the bastards. Because you're special. So there was none of that, and I just grew up no interest. Till I had a son of my own. Sounds cliche, but then I for the first time, I thought, oh, yes, she will remember me. You do remember having a kid, don't you? I thought, oh, she'd be bothered. That was ages ago. And I thought, oh, yeah, very few people have kids and then years later go, didn't we used to have a child? So I thought I'll try and find her. And I went to some length to try and find her. It took years and years. And then I'd stop for 3 years and then start again and so on. And then I'd one of these sort of people who's now on the telly, this woman, who's extraordinarily efficient at finding people. OK, Margaret, because a bit of information came through from some, I can't remember where now, that showed that she was Scottish, that my natural mother was Scottish. And her family had moved down from Scotland to North London, and they'd been, and then I'd been born at this time. And she owned a delicatessen in this little town called Dunkeld in Scotland. And once I got this bit of information, I thought, oh, we've got the address. I took it to one of these people who manages to locate people. And she was all, oh, marvellous, delicatessen, we've got all these different forms, everything. Absolutely splendid, don't worry, give me about 2 weeks and I'll be able to get straight onto it. And so she found my natural mother in Rimini. And she got in touch with her because we sent a letter. My natural mother didn't reply. So then, because this woman had a phone number, she rang her up, and then she reported the phone call back to me. And she said, it was extraordinary, Mark. She said, I'm afraid she certainly doesn't want to meet you. She said, but I did manage to keep her on the phone. She said, and eventually she said, I would like to ask 3 questions. Right. She said, the first question was, what does he do? And I said, well, he's a comedian. The second question was, does he have any children of his own? I said, does he has a son and a daughter? She said, and then she asked a third question. After in all the many years that I've been performing this role of reconnecting erstwhile estranged members of the family, like lost pieces of a jigsaw or whatever, she said, in all those years, not once do I remember anybody ever asking such a question as that which she then posed. She said, and what are his politics? And that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is an extraordinary thing to think. So, and then she said, before I put the phone down, let me tell you who the father is. And so I thought, she's the father, because I'd never had any hint. I'd never even occurred to me to even ask who the father was. I just thought it was some random French bloke, 1960. What is your name, Francis? Would you like to accompany me to the bus shelter? And I thought, what? The father? And I thought, I did honestly, for about a second, I thought, I bet it's de Gaulle. And she said this name, Joe Dweck. And we looked up Joe Dweck, and fairly quickly it became apparent that this man, my actual father, was, amongst other things, the 1976 World Backgammon Champion, who then invested his money that he'd made out of becoming the World Backgammon Champion, which was millions, into Wall Street, and he became one of the Wall Street traders, worth more millions than you could count. And his best mate, the circle in which he moved, I mean, not just who he had a drink with, the circle in which he moved was a group of people at the Claremont Club in Berkeley Square. And the Claremont Club was the establishment club where the richest people in the world, the Arab millionaires, whatever, the Russian, well, before the Russian oligarchs, but those sorts of people would come and meet, and they would play backgammon. And his closest confidants that he went round the world with was these people, older people who'd remember the names, Tiny Rowlands, Jim Slater, Kerry Packer, and Lord Lucan. And so he was part of that world. So if all of that had happened and I'd not been able to write a decent show about it, that would have been really poor, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Well, and your mum was very socialist, and that he's very...
Yeah. She was... Yes, well, I met my natural mother's sisters.
Right.
Before she died at first. But I never met my natural mother. She stayed in Italy, didn't want to know. But I met them, and it was extraordinary business sort of meeting them. And they were all very sort of on the left, and he's clearly not on the left. One of the only communist multi-millionaire Wall Street trader, backgammon champions, friends of Lord Lucan. All the arguments we used to have.
And you did meet him, though?
I did meet him, yeah. And a Sephardic Jew from Egypt.
Right.
Nothing to do with France at all.
Okay.
That was a lie.
That's why you like cheese.
Yeah.
That'll
be why you like pyramids.
That's why you like Toblerones. That's why.
But I don't know. No, it does seem it's a very, very strange thing, but it hasn't made any difference other than I've written this show about it. But
yeah.
He bought me a cup of coffee when I met him, so that's...
I mean, he didn't know. Well, he thought that you'd been got rid of.
Yes, he thought that... when he met me, he told me... Well, he'd already told me this in an email. He said that when he... that the last he'd known about Frances was she'd got in touch with him and said that she was pregnant, and he had then met up with her and borrowed some money from his dad, who had arranged an abortion,
right?
Which was a tricky thing to do in pre-1967.
Yeah.
So he says in the email anyway. So, so that's what he said. So then when I met him, he said, and he was, I sort of imagine him being very Jewish, which he is very Jewish, but he doesn't actually talk like that. But he said, last I knew, you were, last I heard, like I said, and I said, yeah, don't worry. I said, look, I'll tell you what, I'm actually in touch with her family now, so if you like, I can ask for the money back that they obviously owe you. And he sort of went, and I said, no, it was a better joke than that in the circumstance. maybe. And then,
It's weird if you're in that situation and you discovered you had like a son you didn't know about. I mean, it's hard to imagine, I suppose. It's possible, but you know, you'd think.
yeah, I would be. I'd
know,
think,
like-
whoa, this is exciting, wouldn't I? You wouldn't just go, meet up, have a cup of coffee, and then we've not met again since.
No.
But, you know, I got on with him, but I don't know. I should imagine if we carried on meeting, bit by bit, differences of opinion might begin to emerge. But he seemed all right. I liked him.
Yeah. You've got to get in there. There's a lot of money there, Mark.
Yeah.
Some of that's yours.
Yeah, I know. He owned a house, right? He owned a house that he bought for $11 million in California, and he bought it off of Luther Vandross, the soul singer. That's just one house class, isn't it? Not just any $11 million Californian extra house.
Yeah.
Oh, only buy houses if they're off soul singing. Got a bungalow from Diana Ross.
It's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary story, which you did as a show, as any comedian
Of course, yeah.
would be delighted
Yeah,
to
cool.
find out.
That's how rotten we are.
Yeah.
Something like that can emerge in your life, and you think, "Oh, thank fuck for that. That's Edinburgh sorted."
It's quite rare to hear a story where the people find their birth family and the birth. I mean, I know the ants and stuff have
Yeah,
seen
that's
more of them,
right, yeah.
but mostly it's a sort of happier outcome than that in terms
that's
of
the thing,
meeting up and
if it was a soap opera, it'd all be tears and things, wouldn't it? But it's not really going to be like that. I think that was a happy ending in a way because I sort of met him and we got on and that was all right, and off we went. That was, I don't know. That was that was all right, really. And you're not going to. That's also, I do say, I mean, there's other things I'm trying to remember now in the show, because I said, one of the consequences of it was, of course, from then on, whenever I saw an episode of Who Do You Think You Are, I'd go, I can piss on that, mate. Really, Sebastian Coe, your ancestors were slave owners. Well, that's took us all by surprise, isn't it? Sebastian Coe, cunt or wanker?
yeah, might be both. And your son is a comic as well.
Yeah.
So how are you finding that? That's sort of I don't really want to do this to them, but I sort of have a joke about training my children up to be super comedians and taking vengeance on the world for not realising how brilliant I was. Is that how you view it with your son?
Well, he goes his own way, which is right, really. And for a long while, every now and again he'll sort of say, "Oh, how do you reckon this should work?" or something, and then take no notice of me. But there were certain things. I would say this. I know this is true. There were two moments where I thought, "Oh, that is a comic sort of way of thinking." It was he was 9, so this would be. I know it's 12 years ago because it was 3 World Cups ago, right? So, and it does matter because it was leading up to a little bit before this time of year when they did the draw for the World Cup, right? And so he was 9, and I said, Elliot, the World Cup draw's on. Do you want to come and watch it? And he went, what's the point? Even if we're drawn against Easter Island, we'll lose to the statues. 9, that's pretty good, isn't it? And then, I'd often sort of told this story, but he was a mate who he's still very much mates with, who's Polish. He introduced me to this lad who's Polish. And he said, my new mate, Dad, Polish. I said, oh, right, so how are you doing? He said, oh, don't worry, Dad. He said, I do jokes all the time. He said, I don't miss any opportunity. I do jokes all the time about Poland. I said, all right. He said, yeah, especially about the war. He says, because they'd have been stuffed without us in the war. I said, I'm doing jokes about it all the time. I said, do you? Right, listen. Right, you know the battle, right, at the start of the war, right? The RAF, all that, Spitfires, right, what meant Hitler couldn't come here. He went, Battle of Britain, right? I said, 1 in 5 of the pilots, you know where they come from? Poland, right? And he turned straight to his mate and said, see, you were nicking our jobs even back then. So, and he was useless at everything else, just like comics.
It's a weird book. I think being a comedian's a great job, and I love it myself. But it's sort of a weird thing to wish on someone else as well, isn't it? It's a nerve-wracking...
Yeah.
I think as a
Oh,
parent.
God, the nerves. When I've seen him go, I'm not quite so now. The first 2 or 3 times I'd see him walk on and, just the nerves of it, yeah. I've never seen him go really badly, so... But yeah, then he's sort of... this is, this what anyone says. When I said, he's going to do stand-up, what all the other comics say is you'll know if he's going to stick at it, not because he's gone well, but because he's gone badly.
Yeah.
And then still... Because any normal, sane person going through the experience of going in front of people and having them all just go, fuck off, mate, and all that, and shut up, wanker, and all that. You normal people would go, I'm not doing that again. But and the comic goes, I'm going to do that again tomorrow. So he clearly did.
But I think it's harder now for there seems to be so much competition now, and as you say, it's more homogenised in terms of what the circuit is. And even when I started the circuit, it felt like there was 40, 50 people doing it, maybe.
Oh no, there's thousands, isn't there?
So I just don't know how anyone can even see their way through that.
Well, the odd thing, when in them days, if you said you were a comedian, it was like saying you were an astronaut. Do you hear that? But now people go, oh yeah, my neighbour's kids are both doing stand-up. And that. Everyone's doing it.
It's easy, Mark. That's the thing. It's an easy. It's an easy ride.
There's a thing in me shows about the towns I do on the radio.
Yeah.
So. It depends really on people in the towns. And every time, it's never failed, this bit. There are people in the towns who are passionate about their town. I can see how it would be funny from an outside point of view. So they go, you've got to come and look at this mad thing we do here. And they're very passionate, very funny about it. And then they'll sit in front of an audience and tell a story. So the last one I did in the last series was Hull. And there was a couple of the people in the audience there's a little plinth thing by the harbour that they put because Hull was City of Culture. And you speak into this thing. This is astonishing. And about a quarter of a mile down this straight road, there's a tower. And whatever you say in this little plinth lights up on this tower. So you could say, I'm doing a podcast. And it'll say, I'm doing a podcast. Would come up in big lights, which I find utterly staggering that this can happen. So, of course, what did every single person in Hull... go on, fuck shit, piss won't, bollock, fuck shit. So they had to reprogram this thing so that it didn't put up swear words. So I said to the audience on the night, I said, so what's the rudest word anyone's managed to say into it? And it's come up. And straight away a bloke went, Leeds! And that's a cracking bit of improvising, isn't it?
It's got to be able to do it more than once. The thing with a heckler is if you get one, shut up forever. If you get the brilliant heckle, either become a comedian or shut up forever.
Yeah.
Because you'll never beat it. I was watching in the dressing room the Mark Steele lectures. I was just thinking that you did on, was that Channel 4 or
BBC 4?
BBC 4. And I was just thinking would anything like that get made now? It's like incredibly. So these are your lectures about historical figures.
So
Aristotle
lucky.
I was watching, and Darwin, and they're so erudite. I mean, it's so hard to get any stand up on TV now. It's all panel shows and it's all presenting jobs. But it's not that long ago. It's like 13,
12 years ago. Yeah,
and it almost seemed like comic that was allowed. It was a very funny show.
Well, I think why
have they allowed a comedian to go and talk about Aristotle? This is insane.
Yeah,
but of course it isn't insane.
And we sort of tried to do it, the rules of it, as stand-up, so actually jokes all the way through, but telling the real story of Aristotle and what he was about and stuff. Yeah, I love doing that, because at first I had to find out really try to fathom out what these people were about. And you'd go, and I did one on Einstein. And of course, this was driving me. I'd read the same 2 pages about the theory of relativity over and over. My lad was about 8 at the time. And I remember I was sat in the bath, and then I looked at my lad, and he must have been stood there for a while, and he went, oh my God, my dad sat in the bath talking about the speed of light. And I thought, I'm going nuts here. But yeah, they let us do it, and... I think it was because BBC 4 was just starting at the time. Yeah. And so they sort of go, we don't quite know how we're going to sort of run this thing, so you go off and make that, because I've done it on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant fun. Yeah,
You got to you and Aristotle. You were in Greece and
Yeah,
Parthenon and
that was great, brilliant fun. That one, because there was you go to these places and they have someone who's supposed to show you round. So the BBC have someone designated person who's their Athens person, but this bloke, he was just like a Greek comedy character, and he hadn't done anything. And he said, "Oh, we've got all these locations for you to film in." And when we got there, he said, "Oh, I've got to admit, like, I haven't really done nothing," and so we had to just do it on street corners and stuff, and we had to sneak in, like John Peel just sneaking into places with secret cameras, and that was brilliant fun. Yeah.
It's
Not for any great, investigative reason. It was just so I could do a silly joke about Aristotle while stood by a column.
I mean, there was jokes in it, and it's really funny, but it is completely educating. You find out all about those. There's a lot of work in there, so they're all like a little Edinburgh, half an hour Edinburgh show.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what there was. My favourite one was there. There was one about. I think it was about Noel Edmonds. Actually, it was like it was what makes something. Aristotle was concerned with what makes something what it is, and he said everything has an essence of what. So a table could be. You could sort of plane it. You could maybe even chop a leg off it. You could do all sorts of things to it. It would still remain a table, but there is an essence inside it that makes it a table. If you remove that, then it ceases to be what it is. For example, Noel Edmonds keeps changing. He was on the radio, then he was on the television, then he's just in the newspapers, but remains throughout, in essence, a deeply nauseating twat. and somehow we were allowed to say that. It's a way of explanation of Aristotle's theory.
That explains it. I think comedy is such a great way to get information across. People will enjoy something, and it makes complicated ideas digestible, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I just remembered actually because it was sponsored by the Open University, and their sort of lecturers were split. Some of them really liked it, right. But some of them just hated it because you can imagine not taking the subject seriously. It's absolutely demeaning to the whole practice. Education is just plummeting downhill with this nonsense, frivolous, irrelevant, all this sort of thing. So. There was one bloke on the Darwin programme. We had to go and meet him for the day, and we sent him the script, and he hated it. And he went through every single little bit, going, that bit there, that's wrong there, we should have a comma there, surely, rather than a semicolon. I would think it's important to get this bit. I know, but when we say it, doesn't matter whether you get things right or not. Do you care? And then, there was the ship's doctor that Darwin replaced when he went on the Beagle, the trip where he went around the world, and that led to him discovering the theory of natural selection. So it was called McCulloch, and he said, "Look at this here, McCulloch. You've spelled him with 1 C, 2 C's, and McCulloch. Everybody knows that. What's the matter with him?" And every page, McCulloch again there. To make that a difference there. I'll try and say it with both C's. Very well being frivolous about it, but these things matter. And I swear this happened. He said, "Look at this quote here. This is very important. This quote here, you've attributed to Darwin. Darwin said no such thing. Where on earth did you get this? This is absolutely scandalous if we're going to try and pass this off as a programme that's about Darwin when it clearly isn't anything remotely close to the truth. Where on earth did you get that?" And it was like a moment you dream about, because I thought, I know where I got that. I got that from your book. And I said, "I got that from your book." And he just went, then the next page. It was brilliant fun doing it, though.
Yeah. Is it a shame that that couldn't happen now, or do you think it could happen now?
Could it happen now? Probably not.
I mean, you could do it as a podcast now, but then it would be a podcast without you going to Athens.
Or they'd do it as a panel show, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but you could do it on your own, and you could. But then,
I suppose so.
I mean, it would still interesting. I think you're still obviously doing radio shows, and the radio is a place where they'll let you experiment a bit more than the TV. I think now, but
yeah. Well, I think loads of comics are trying. There's loads of brilliant things on there. Isn't there? Yeah. But that's, I don't know, that's great. I can't grumble, can I? I did it 3 years of it. It's not fair. I want to do more of it. I want to go to more silly countries.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I couldn't believe they sent us something. Because to be honest, we didn't need to go to these places, but they sort of insisted.
Right.
And went to Bolivia to do the Che Guevara. I think they sort of couldn't quite work out whether it was a serious documentary. Of course, if you're doing a serious documentary, right, you shall go to Bolivia or Cuba. The Cubans wouldn't let us in because they said the Che Guevara programme was too rude about Che Guevara.
Right.
And there was a joke in that. I'll see if I can remember that. It was about, so there was no opposition movements to the regime that Fidel Castro and Che Guevara overthrew, which is a dictatorial regime, as illustrated in the second Godfather film, right? So very corrupt. And the ruler, there was only one opposition party allowed, but the opposition party leader somewhat sort of skewed his credibility, because he had a radio show he was allowed every week, and 1 week, at the end of his radio show, he shot himself. And so I did a joke where I said, I wonder if the Cuban radio was as sort of as cool as Radio 4 would be, because then you just hear. That was the last in this series by the opposition. So it was full of stuff like that, and they just were furious. Well, this is just making mockery of Che Guevara, so they wouldn't let us do it. So we had to go to Bolivia, and it was it was brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. I remember there was one bit we had to go on this. There was James Serafinovich, who some people might know, who was brilliant, big scouse bloke, and he was just brilliant. But he was just. Huge bloke, but he gets scared very easily. Like the first time I was writing stuff with him, he just went, "Oh fucking hell! Oh God! Oh fuck!" And I thought something terrible's happened. What? He said, "There's a wasp." And so it was like, so this bus, we had to get this bus over this hill in Bolivia to where Che Guevara was shot. And so this bus, and there was some little old bloke smoking away on this little bus as it just went around these windy Italian job type sort of mountain passes, and the back end of the bus would go over this huge mountain. It was quite airy, and he just lost it. We were about 2 miles away from where we were going, which was still going to take. He just lost it, and he got up, he stood up the front, he went, "Right, stop the fucking bus. I'm getting off. We're all going to die. There's no point. That's it. I'm just not going plummeting over the fucking edge. You can go over the edge if you want, but I'm fucking getting off. I'm walking." And so the guide woman, she was from Paraguay, she got up just really calmly, she said, "That's fine, if you want to get off walk, it is straight road around here you'll find, but I wonder whether a good idea for this area there is great many wolves." Brilliant, should have kept that in, shouldn't we?
And you're on tour at the moment? Which I think you'll still, by the time this goes out, will just about still be on tour.
Yeah, I think so.
What's
We're
your
always
new show?
on tour, aren't we?
Yeah. You got a website. You've reluctantly entered the website world according to your website. So marksteelinfo.com, is it, or co.uk?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So the tour's every little thing's going to be all right.
Every little thing's going to be all right. Yeah.
And
I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
About everything. Well, I tried to do sort of quite a bit of stuff about the mad sort of couple of years really that's happened. And then all my own world went a little bit AWOL as well, so it's all about that. It's hard to sort of talk about that though without making it sound really miserable. but yeah, no, I'm trying to be cheering up. But it's just sort of, you just sort of think of jokes, aren't you? And I always feel real cheat when you get this. People go, "Oh, this must be a brilliant subject that you can really feel that you can convey a certain message," and you're just thinking, "Oh, I just want a joke."
Yeah, well, I sort of increasing. It is great, I think, if you can impart information and knowledge and ideas, and I think you should be trying to do all that as well. But ultimately, the job is about making people laugh. Yeah. And if you're not, doing that, we haven't made anyone laugh for about 3 minutes here. No, we're right. We're back on.
We're back aware. We're both astutely aware. Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
people have no idea. They have no idea that that's the terrible mind. That's what's going on in your mind. That if you were doing a speech for your best mate's funeral, that if you went a minute without a laugh, you'd be thinking, "Fuck, I'm losing it."
But sometimes I think with this audience, they're quite good.
Yeah, very good.
I
Splendid,
regret
yeah.
wishing death on them. And I mean, generally, not just tonight. Generally, you're as good as all the other nights' audiences. They listen. So the silence is often like an amazing thing in a comedy gig, because if people are actually, if you get silence, that's different.
So they've all left.
Well, they're all left, or they're all listening. If there's a little,
I think when the first performance I ever did was in this absolutely piss poor poetry group. Jeez, it was bad. And I tried then. That's the last time really I tried to do a serious thing without any jokes. And I had this poem. I was about 19 and I was on the dole and I was all angry. And I wrote this huge, long poem about being unemployed. And it was just appalling. And the last two lines were addressed to Thatcher. Because of what I dread, I'd rather you were dead. Right? That's how it ended. So that gives a measure of it. Right? And then we got booked to do the poetry group got booked to do an evening in Dulwich Village. Rather well-to-do place, a poetry society there that met in this rather posh pub, and there was a back room, and there was about 12 people there, and they were really rather, they weren't people that were, I hadn't bumped into any of them at the Dole office, and so I thought, I remember thinking, I'm going to do this poem, and it's just going to explode everyone apart, and they'll either be sick, which will serve them right, or they'll say the young man's right, and they'll get a gun and go off and fight with the Sandinistas or something. And so I did me pole angry, because of what I dread, I'd rather you were dead. And then there was this silence, and then they all sort of went. And then this woman in a fur coat leant across and she said, I thought you did very well to remember all the words. I thought, I'm not going to bother with that again.
That's pretty much it. But laughter is the main thing, and then everything else.
Leave them on a song.
It's quite nice. We can do a song if you like. We do have to wrap up because a van's coming to take me and these chairs back to Hertfordshire. How things have changed. Changed their Square Theatre podcast over the last 6 years. We're not allowed to store the chairs in the theatre, so I've got to take them home.
Oh, God.
In the van.
It's so downbeat, isn't it? I mean, I know, but when you do a show and you leave and that, and then 5 minutes after the show ends, there might have been 500, 600, 700 people there, and then they've all gone, and then they'll come out with an industrial fit. And then you sort of leave, and one of the technicians is undoing something and that, and you just leave, and they go, see you then, mate. And like you delivered a parcel,
I had a tech. This is so rarely happens. I had a tech at the gig. I came off half time. She went, "That is amazing." And I came off the end of the half. She goes, "I'm going to come and see you with my girlfriend and in another." And you just think that never happens. No tech people ever come and tell you did well. Wow. That's one. So maybe I'm good now if I've made one backstage person. You wait till you go off with George. He's not going to give us. He won't even say a thing. He likes Maria Bamford. That's the only one he was excited about. But it's so great to have you on, Martin. Thanks so much for coming along. And 36 years of being a stand-up comedian, something like that. 30,
yeah. God, is that a good thing?
I think it is. I think we were saying backstage. I think that whole thing of are people either get too big and don't want to stand up,
that,
or they stop. Or they
Who
stop.
wants that? Who wants to do a podcast and immediately be on at the Albert Hall?
But, you don't. It's to be able to keep playing to 7 people from 1982. The same 7. Gradually they die off. Gradually.
Better luck in 5 years. I can do the same joke over and over again. Oh yes, that's funny.
I think it's I think for me, stand-up comedy is what the job it actually is. So if you've managed to keep doing that for all those years and are still creating,
what else would it be then? The job of stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Other than stand-up comedy.
Well, but lots of people become presenters. Don't do stand-up. So I think that's the job. And if you keep doing the job and you keep on creating, which you're writing a column every week. You're coming up with new material all the time. So that's I think like. But
the radio thing, strangely, the radio show is although I have to write. I mean, we record about an hour. for each one. But strangely, that doesn't seem so difficult, to write an hour about Bungay in Suffolk or something, or wherever it is, because it's so specific. And and then we did Bedford in that. Well, for example, right? So Bedford, which is perfect for that radio series, because everyone's heard of Bedford, but you don't know much about it. No one knows much about it. And then it turns out there's a group there called the Panacea Society, and these people, in all honesty, believed, having studied the matter, that the Garden of Eden is in Bedford. And there's a cult there, and at one point there were 70 or 80 people living in this big house, believing that and they bought loads of property, and one of the houses has been left empty ever since. It remains empty because it's for Jesus when he comes back. Because last time, they never planned it in advance, did they? So this time, that's why all that stuff with a manger. But they've got a house all ready for him in Bedford. But honestly, and there was this wonderful bit where there was a documentary about him a few years ago on Channel 4, and the oldest member, she now died, so the last one's died out, but the oldest one, she was being interviewed, and in particular, she was being interviewed about the prophet, woman in the 18th century called Joanna Southcott, that believes they're prophet. And she wrote loads of piles and piles of books, prophecies, including her conversations with the devil. And the woman being interviewed was right. She said, well, I've read them all. And exact words, she said, and I read her conversations with the devil, and the devil's so rude. And I thought that was really sweet to be shot. It's one thing being the Prince of Darkness, but no need to forget your manners, is there? I want your soul. Little word. Want your soul, please. That's better. So I just sort of, I don't know, when you find little things like that about a town, it's sort of, I know you say it writes itself, but it sort of does.
Yeah. You could also turn up and go, I'm here. Where's my bedroom? Hello, it's me. Jesus, I'm back. Well, this looks nice. I'll live here. I'm going to try that. So, ladies and gentlemen, mass round of applause. Last guest of the series, Mark Neal. We're back in September, bitches. See you in September. Thank you very much. Go. How'd you like them sky potatoes?